All right, this is our second recording for Chapter 4. In our last recording, we looked at ATP, that molecule that's used in your cells to actually carry energy from place to place and do jobs, how that ATP molecule releases its energy by breaking off a phosphate, and then what remains, the ADP, gets recharged with energy from the molecules that you eat and turn back into an ATP. Those molecules that you eat contain stored energy. Carbohydrates, for example, contain a lot of stored energy, and we use those carbs primarily as our source of energy. This is the food we want to eat to get energy. You can eat fats and proteins and even nucleic acids and break them down, but they're not the best source of energy for humans. And the last thing we looked at was this chemosynthesis, the process of some organisms using chemicals from the environment instead of chemicals made through photosynthesis as their source of energy. So down here at the bottom of the ocean, where there is no sunlight, they use chemicals as their source of energy. Okay, today's topic is 4.2, photosynthesis, everyone's favorite. All right, photosynthesis is the process of converting sun energy, solar energy, into chemical energy. This is going to be done by producers. Any organism that is photosynthetic, meaning that it can photosynthesize, is something we call a producer. Producers make their own energy. They make their own ATP molecules using sunlight. Now, sunlight's not something that we can take advantage of. Humans aren't capable of converting solar energy into chemical energy. So we have to rely upon plants like this corn, the little green parts, the leaves, to convert that useless solar energy into a chemical form that we can take advantage of. And so the process of making that chemical energy is photosynthesis. From there, once you have that chemical energy, we can use that to make sugars. So here we can see this green plant right here, this corn, is photosynthesizing, creating chemical energy from the sun, and it's using that energy to build this wonderful corn cob. Corn is something that we can consume. It contains sugars, and so it's a food source for us. This all happens thanks to the wonderful pigment molecule called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll has the unusual ability to absorb light energy. Not all molecules out there are able to do this. Chlorophyll is found within the chloroplast in plant cells, and it's able to soak up that light energy and use it to create stored chemical energy. Now, the chlorophyll is found within the organelle, the chloroplast, within this larger plant cell. So we can see this leaf is going to be made up of hundreds of thousands of individual little plant cells. This plant cell happens to contain, looks like, 4 chloroplasts. Plant cells generally contain anywhere from 4 to 50 chloroplasts. There's generally a lot of them inside any given plant cell. This organelle is called the chloroplast. The chloroplast contains a pigment. It is filled with a pigment called chlorophyll. The chlorophyll is what is actually going to absorb the solar energy. All right, let's take a closer look at a single chloroplast. So this organelle right here is our individual chloroplast. Photosynthesis in plants is going to occur in this organelle. It takes place in 2 separate places. So within this chloroplast, we're going to use 2 different spots. The first one is this stack of flat discs. You can see right here, they're brightly colored, they're bright green because they contain the chlorophyll pigment. These stacks are called grana. Each individual one is called a thylakoid disc. The thylakoid discs look like just a stack of green pennies. This is the first part. The second part of photosynthesis is going to occur in the space outside the grana. This is called the stroma. The stroma is just the liquid-filled portion outside of those thylakoid discs. So we have 2 separate stages for photosynthesis. First one in the thylakoids, second one in the stroma. All right, let's look at the first part. This is called the light-dependent reactions. All that means is that this chemical reaction is dependent upon there being some light. If there's no light, this reaction doesn't happen. And the light energy that we're looking at is sunlight. So this process, the light-dependent reactions, are where we're going to capture the sunlight and store it in a chemical form. Sunlight's not a chemical, it's a photon. We can't use that. So the plant's going to convert this sunlight into a chemical that we can use. Oops, let's go back one. So this is going to take place in a thylakoid. So here let's take a close-up look at our one chloroplast. What goes into this chemical reaction? Well, going in we have sunlight, follow the arrows. Going in we have water. These two things must be within the chloroplast for this process to occur. The chlorophyll in the thylakoid disc is going to absorb that sunlight, it's going to use the water, and it's going to convert these two things into stored chemical energy. So the energy is transferred along the thylakoid membrane. Energy is the sunlight. The energy from the sun is transferred along the thylakoid membrane. It travels along the membrane, and then it gets stored in an energy carrier molecule. So here we can see energy is always represented with a little star. It's stored in an actual little molecule. This molecule of energy is going to be used in the next step. Then there's also this byproduct, oxygen, that gets released out into the atmosphere. All right, the second step are the light-independent reactions. That means these reactions will occur without the presence of light. They'll also occur if light is there, but they don't need light to happen. This just means that the plant is able to continue this process, the light-independent reactions, even after the sun goes down. So plants are going to use what they got from the light-dependent reactions to make sugars. So this is the same picture. I'm just showing you the bottom half of it now. Let's go back one. You can see the light-dependent reactions created this energy down here. And now there it is. So the energy that we made in the light-dependent reactions goes in. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere also goes in. So these are the two things coming into the reaction. In the stroma, a series of chemical reactions is going to occur, and we're not going to go into the details of these reactions. You don't need to know that. This series of chemical reactions is going to produce a little tiny sugar. So it takes place in the stroma. You need carbon dioxide, and we're going to use the energy stored in the light-dependent reactions to build a little sugar. That's the goal. This is what this whole process is all about. That plant is going to use light energy, right here, solar energy, and water, and through chemical reactions, it's going to create some energy, another series of chemical reactions, and it's going to create a sugar. So here's the simple breakdown of this whole process. The equation that we use to represent photosynthesis, everything on this side are the reactants. This means chemical reactions, plural, because there's lots of little arrows, so lots of reactions are occurring. Chemical reactions occur, and then this side is the product. So sunlight goes in with some water and some CO2 in the chloroplast through a series of chemical reactions, C6H12O6, which is basically this little sugar, and some oxygen come out. What I want you to understand about photosynthesis is what goes into the reaction and what comes out of the reaction. So everything on this side is going in to the chloroplast. Chemical reactions occur. What's coming out? Oxygen and sugar. Now, if you're in my regular classes, then you may stop the recording at this point. If you're in my honors classes, I want to talk through one more slide because there's a few more details I would like for you to know. Okay, this is the same thing. This is the exact same chemical reaction. We've got the chloroplast, this bean-shaped structure. We've got our thylakoid discs, and we've got our light-independent reactions happening over here. So let's just walk through this. Light energy from the sun comes in, strikes the thylakoid discs. We have to have some water present. That energy gets converted into a chemical form. Here we have the two energy carrier molecules, ATP, and then another one, NADPH. NADPH, P for plants. This is an energy carrier molecule just the same as ATP. These two energy carrier molecules are going to be used in the light-independent reaction to power this cycle. And this cycle is going to take CO2 from the atmosphere, a little more water, and using a molecule that's already in there called rubisco, we're going to use the energy that we harvested in the light-dependent reactions to power this cycle and create what's called a G3P. It's basically just a little glucose. G3P is just a little tiny sugar. So this light-independent reaction uses a rubisco and we get glucose. We also have some leftovers. These two guys are the energy carrier molecules that were used up here, but now their energy's gone and so they're uncharged. These two guys are going to go back over here to the light-dependent reactions and get charged up again. And then they'll go power the light-independent reactions a second time, and then they're used up. They get powered up again over here, and it just continues to happen. All right, that is the extent of what I want you to know for this section. Let's make sure. Yep, that's the end of 4.3.